Emperor Exalthar had ruled the Celestial Empire for 3 centuries, commanding fleets that stretched across 1,000 star systems. He had crushed rebellions, annexed entire sectors, and reduced civilizations to ash with a gesture. But now, standing in his war room, surrounded by his greatest generals, he found himself afraid of something he couldn't even properly define. "Show me the reports again," he commanded, his voice betraying none of the uncertainty gnawing at his core. General Orcs activated the holographic display, and the familiar nightmare began to play out once more. Star system after star system, showing the same impossible pattern, thriving imperial colonies simply changing. Not destroyed, not conquered, transformed. The Kepler sector was the first, General Orcs reported, his mandibles clicking nervously. 17 worlds, fully terraformed, supporting 43 million imperial citizens. Overnight, the entire sector went dark. When our scouts arrived, they found— "Tell me what they found," Exalthar demanded, though he had heard this report dozens of times. "Stories, my lord." The entire sector had become stories. The holographic display showed what their reconnaissance had discovered. Planets that existed in multiple states simultaneously. Cities that rearranged themselves according to narrative logic rather than physics. Populations that lived and died and lived again in endless cycles of mythic adventure. The humans were supposed to be contained, growled Admiral Veshka from across the room. "We gave them the Sol system, established the quarantine barriers, assigned them resource allowances. They were meant to remain a curiosity, nothing more." Exalthar's claws scraped against the metal of his command throne. The human quarantine had been his predecessor's decision, a seemingly reasonable response to first contact with a species that exhibited disturbing tendencies. Humans didn't just live their lives, they told stories about them. They didn't just experience events, they transformed them into narratives that somehow became more real than reality itself. At first, it had seemed harmless. Humans would take mundane occurrences and weave them into epic tales of heroism, tragedy, and triumph. Their entire culture revolved around storytelling in ways that other species found mildly unsettling but ultimately harmless. Then the stories started becoming true. "The Vega incident was our first warning," General Orcs continued. "A human exploration vessel strayed beyond the quarantine zone and encountered our patrol fleet. According to their ship's logs, they decided this was the beginning of a classic space opera." The hologram shifted to show combat footage that still gave Exalthar nightmares. The human ship, a modest research vessel with no military capability, had somehow convinced reality that it was the plucky underdog hero of an epic space adventure. Imperial weapons had mysteriously malfunctioned at critical moments. Navigation systems had developed convenient glitches that led to dramatic near misses. The laws of physics had bent themselves into pretzels to ensure the humans' escape followed proper narrative structure. But that was just one ship, Admiral Veshka protested. A single vessel caught up in some kind of localized reality distortion. "We contained it, established better barriers. Did we?" Exalthar interrupted. "Or did we simply become part of their story?" The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Because that was the truly terrifying part. Every imperial response to human incidents had followed predictable narrative patterns. The more the Empire tried to contain humanity, the more they resembled the evil Galactic Empire of human stories. Every military action, every policy decision, every strategic choice seemed to slot perfectly into the role of antagonist in some cosmic drama. "The Andromeda front has gone completely silent," reported Intelligence Chief Mordok, her voice barely above a whisper. 3 entire battle fleets, gone. But our long-range sensors still detect their ships. There, different now. The holographic display zoomed out to show the galaxy's spiral arms, Red zones spread across the map like an infection, marking areas where Imperial forces had encountered what the analysts euphemistically called narrative anomalies. They're not conquering us, Xaltha realized with growing horror. They're not even fighting us. They're making us into characters in their stories. My Lord General Corex ventured, perhaps we should consider negotiation. Negotiation? Xaltha's laugh was bitter. Don't you understand? The moment we negotiate with them, we become the desperate empire trying to bargain with the inevitable heroes. The moment we attack them, we become the evil force that must be defeated. The moment we ignore them, we become the arrogant villains who underestimate the power of hope. He stood and walked to the massive viewport overlooking the imperial capital. Millions of lights spread out below him, representing countless lives that depended on his decisions. But for the first time in his reign, those decisions felt predetermined by forces beyond his control. They haven't weaponized technology, he continued, his voice heavy with dawning comprehension. They've weaponized meaning itself. Every human who believes they're the hero of their own story becomes a localized reality distortion. And now there are billions of them. The communication array suddenly crackled to life, broadcasting on all frequencies simultaneously. The voice that emerged was unremarkable, a middle-aged human male with a slight accent and a tone of casual friendliness. Hello, Emperor Xaltha. This is Captain James Morrison of the Terran Narrative Corps. We know you're probably pretty confused about what's been happening lately. The good news is, this doesn't have to be a tragedy. Every story needs an ending, but you get to choose what kind. Xaltha felt the weight of cosmic forces pressing down on him. He could feel the story shaping itself around his next words, around his next choice. He was no longer an emperor, making strategic decisions. He was a character, approaching a crucial plot point. What kind of ending do you offer? He asked, already knowing that the question itself was part of the narrative. That depends on what kind of emperor you want to be remembered as, Captain Morrison replied. The wise ruler who recognized when it was time to change, or the tragic figure who couldn't adapt to a universe where hope has become a fundamental force of nature. As Xaltha stared out at his empire, he realized the truth that would haunt him forever. Humanity hadn't conquered the galaxy through superior technology or military might. They had conquered it by becoming the stories the galaxy told about itself. And in those stories, the heroes always won.